Hello, friends, and welcome to the Monday Show 31. I'm your host, Wes. With me, as always, my good friend, Roots. Roots, the Alex train just keeps on rolling. Uh, but for an actual change, for the first time in like a week, we actually made time for some other games. How did that experience go for
I
you?
don't know. I felt dirty. I was like, I should be playing Alex. I shouldn't be playing anything else. I need to finish this game. No, it was good, man. Actually, I was just telling you, I've completed a couple games this week. I'm starting to become the finisher. Starting to give Mamefan no, I'm not giving Mamefan a run for his money. He'll still always be the finisher, but it does feel good to put a couple games behind me. So
I feel the same. It was refreshing to check out some other stuff, but I think that really just speaks more to the quality of what we were playing more than anything else. Did you notice any like Asgard's effect going into playing these newer titles?
no, not too much. It seemed like because it was at least the one that we're going to talk about that I played. It was such a different game that I didn't feel like there was any Asgard effect at all. Actually, oh.
Yeah, well, let's just not beat around the bush. Let's just get right on into it. Down the Rabbit Hole came out this past week on March 26th. This game is a story driven. I mean, we kind of described it before as a platformer, but it's not really a platformer. It's just a story driven light puzzle game brought to us, of course, by Cortopia Studios. And we'd like to take this opportunity to thank Cortopia Studios for providing us with review copies of this game. But this is basically a story driven game that's a prequel to the Alice in Wonderland fairy tale. And you know, we've talked about this game more than once on our channel. How did it live up to your expectations?
I lived up to my expectations very well, actually. I was hoping it was going to be good, and it didn't disappoint. And like I was telling you before we started, as I was playing through, my biggest concern was is that I was going to try to zoom into stuff and want to look at the detail and have be prevented, you know. But I was blown away with how much I could move stuff around, zoom in as close as I want. And then the way that things change from first person to third person, you're interacting characters. 4.5, man. What a fucking trump. Dude, that dude is badass card, man. He's my favorite character. And it was cool. It was a really cool story.
Yeah, I agree. The when you get into a game like this, or at least my experience with it was, is it really wasn't as much about the gameplay as it was the storytelling and the presence, what it feels like to witness Wonderland firsthand. I mean, don't get me wrong, the puzzles were fun. They weren't the most challenging thing in the world, but they were enough to keep me engaged. But really, here it was all about the characters. It was all about the world and the story, right?
Yeah, yeah, and the rabbit, you know, he's a little worried. He's a little stressed out, but I guess I would be too. What I liked about it the most was the way that they brought Alice in Wonderland into the story, as far as like you said, the prequel. Just talking about certain characters. The Mad Hatter is not mad yet, but they kind of make reference to, you know, he might be going crazy, and I just really enjoyed the story. And just everything about it. And like I said, the scale is just crazy good, and the detail. Like it didn't matter how close I got to stuff. There was just no limitations that you see in a lot of games like this, where you'll get close and then it only lets you go so far. You could get super close, and the closer you get, obviously it's making things bigger. So it really did change the whole aspect of everything. And then I like the roots, you know, of course I'm gonna like roots, but so how you can grab one and it moves you, and if you grab two, it actually, you can shift the angle of how things are, and the way that these things are going. You're going through tunnels, and a lot of times you're having to shift to be able to look at it the right way, and it just was very interactive. But this is one of the coolest things is every so often they'll have a card. It'll like start to tell the story, and it lets you choose one of the three things in the story, like the name of the cat, or just different things, and it shifts things. And the story actually does or can be affected by your choices. And there are several different endings from what I've found. So I don't know. I just, for $20, I think this is probably one of the coolest games of this type that I've played in a long time.
Yeah, we've. It's a funny thing, we don't have a lot of these types of games in VR. I mean, we've got this one, we've got Ghost Giant. I mean, Moss to an extent is this type of a game as well, even though there's a little more action going on in Moss. But the few examples that we have of this diorama style storytelling game, they're all, very good. You'd think you'd see more copycats, right?
Yeah. Well, what made this one so good, or even better than a lot of the other ones, is that it's a known story, and it's one that we all are vested in. We were told this story as a kid, and so going into that world, and like you were mentioning, the craziness of it. It's Alice in Wonderland. You don't know what the fuck to expect. It's always changing. There's weird stuff, even outside of the normal story. And like I said, you actually run into that card, and he becomes a part of the story. And I just really enjoyed the entire thing. And like I said, even if I had paid for it, $20 is definitely more than fair for the price. Now it's only 2 hours, but that I played 2 hours and I didn't get every invitation. So I guarantee I could probably spend another hour at least in there to fully complete the game. So
Yeah, that's what I would say. I would say that it's a 2 to 4 hour game, depending upon how you play it, and that's assuming that you don't go back and try to get all the endings, which there are multiple endings. Um, but yeah, there's a lot going on here. What you were saying about the story is absolutely true. It's nice to have this new story that's built upon the foundation of something like Alice in Wonderland that we're all familiar with, because as you're going through this new world in a different way than you ever have before, every now and then you'll come across these story elements that provide you not only with this little bit of familiarity that you can latch onto, but some good old fashioned nostalgia, while you're at it. It kind of throws you back to when you were a kid, when you see certain characters or even hear them referenced. So yeah, I enjoyed that aspect of it quite a bit as well. And what you're saying here with the way you interact with the world and you're grabbing these roots, I knew about this coming into the game, but I always kind of pictured it as a stationary world that you're kind of climbing through, and it's just the opposite. You stay stationary and you grab and move the world around you. And we've seen this style of movement used before in games, but generally it's either used in some. It's almost always been tried in first person, like action games, and it doesn't really work all that well in that. But I feel like in this third person diorama style game, it was perfect because, even with Moss, with Ghost Giant, a lot of the joy that comes from these games is by getting in there and checking out every little detail of these miniaturized worlds. And as far as that goes, I think they picked the perfect interaction style to maximize that aspect of it.
and let me ask you this: did you feel like it was, you know, hindered at all because it was on the Quest? Because I've seen comments already in Discord of, oh well, you can tell was a Quest game because it doesn't look as good on the PC, and I thought it looked phenomenal on the PC. I don't know, maybe I'm just not I'm just not privy to the whole. Oh, it was made for a Quest, so the graphics aren't going to be as good. Whole conversation, but I didn't see a difference in it, and I just think that people are looking. They want to see that, Wes. They want. They just want it to not be as good for some reason. I don't know, man. It's weird.
It's what it is. It's a philosophical thing, first of all. Second of all, it's remnants of our old programming from the many years we all spent as flat gamers, and we all put this high premium on graphics, and the way that you judge how good something is by how realistic it looks. Um, there's a place for realistic graphics, of course, in video games, but when you're talking about an adaptation of an animated story, something that's supposed to look cartoony anyway, those standards do not apply here. And I mean, some people, like I said, it's a philosophical thing. Some people look at it as, well, it could have, you can leverage the power of a PC to do more. And since they didn't do that, then it's lacking in some way. And I would contend, like you, that there are certain cases, uh, cartoonish animated games specifically, one of those cases, that you don't need photorealism. And the even if it is graphically designed around the limitations of the mobile processor, in this case, uh, the power of that processor is plenty enough to render out a more than sufficient, very beautiful, in fact, world. And in fact, I would say that the way this game looks is one of its strengths. Am I wrong?
No, it looked amazing. Now, did you try this on the Quest as well? Because I know you got the Quest key earlier, and I don't have a Quest, so I couldn't try it, but I tried it on the PC. Just curious, or did your kids go in? Have they gone into this game yet?
My wife played through it on Quest. My gameplay was on PC, but I did put the headset on the Quest to see if it looked any different. And I mean, not really. I mean, other than the normal stuff that you see when you switch from one to the other, uh, you know, obviously the PC picture's a little cleaner than the mobile picture. But as far as the graphical, the way it looks graphically, it's pretty much identical.
Hmm. Did you run into the Imposter King yet?
The Imposter King? No, I have not.
I thought the story was funny, man. I like, it's all about the cards, man. They got some weird cards out there, but it just was pretty funny, and I think you'll enjoy it. I enjoyed it, and
Yeah, I've enjoyed my time in it so far. I've played through what I imagine is about halfway through the game. There's 6 levels that they show you. I've played through the first 3, but I played it differently than you, right? My style of playing is, oh, there's invitations to find. Well, I'm going to find every one of them,
yeah.
and I have. I've found every one of them that I've looked for so far, and really, it's a good mechanic. It gives you an excuse to really explore this world, other than you just want to look at it. You know, now you have a reason to look at it closely, right? And it allows you to use the interaction system and everything to its fullest potential because you're trying to do something else.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. It's definitely a must play if you like this type of game, I would say. And like I said, for $20, I think it's well worth it.
Yeah, if you're the type of person who gets nostalgic feelings with regards to like old fairy tales and things, if you've ever wanted to see these scenarios played out right before your very eyes, this is a good title for you. If you enjoy exploring these worlds, these miniaturized worlds, you know, the 3D effect, whenever we look at one of these style of games, is always, I mean, it's eye-popping, the 3D effect, and this one was no exception, right?
Yeah, no, it was amazing. And just getting up close and looking at that like they just did with that card, and kind of getting different angles, and I don't know, it blew me away just how good the detail was, the story was, the acting was good, and that group of cards that are rude to 4.5. Those fuckers, man. I just don't like them. So there's a group of cards out there, Wes, that are elitists, and
oh yeah, I saw them. They're bigots.
bastards.
Yeah, they're bigoted, just like the Queen. But no, the look and sound of it, absolutely beautiful. Like you said, the voice acting is on point. The storytelling, very good. The gameplay is a little basic, but again, the gameplay isn't the strength of a title like this. It's all about the experience. And what makes this experience special is exactly what you would think. You're in Wonderland. There's a certain weirdness factor that comes with being in Wonderland. Sometimes up is down, sometimes left is right. And really, I think overall, as many strengths as this title has, I think that was probably my favorite thing about it, was just the overall strangeness of the world and the characters that you encounter.
Yeah, and just trying to figure out what the hell's going to happen next, and where's this story going, because you have a general idea of where it's going to eventually end, but it's like, how do you get there? And then just even the way that the whole thing ended, which I won't go into because you haven't finished it, but it tied it all back in together, and you're like, wow, like it was just done. It was just done very well. And I've said that several times, but it's because I was very impressed with this game, for this type of game, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely a recommend on both of our parts. $20, certainly worth it. Not very many weaknesses here. A beautiful game, a game that looks good, sounds good, great storytelling, great voice acting, tremendous 3D effect, colorful, great characters. Really, the only negative things that I could even come up with about it is that the puzzles aren't very difficult. The gameplay loop is kind of basic, and the game's a little short. But in my opinion, the positives here far outweigh the negatives.
Yeah, I totally agree.
All right, so there you have it, folks. If you have a PC headset or an Oculus Quest, this game is available right now, $20. Definitely worth it. And if you have a PlayStation VR, you're not going to have to wait very long at all. This game is said to be coming in early April. So that means any time now. And definitely I recommend there as well. I got to imagine, from what we've seen here, this game is going to transfer beautifully to the PlayStation 4 console.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, and that's going to bring us to another game that I had a chance to play. That being because it is an Oculus Quest title, and it's a Quest exclusive, Roots, or not so much, but as a mobile exclusive. I'm talking, of course, about B-Team. B-Team comes to us from Twisted Pixel. It was originally an Oculus Go title, but was adapted for Oculus Quest and released on March 26th. On the Quest store for $15. Of course, we'd like to take this opportunity to thank our friends at Twisted Pixel for allowing me review access to this game. So, Roots, looking at the promotional material for this game, I went into it with some fairly high expectations. This is a comedy game, more than anything. And the trailer, spouts off what was at one time some pretty big names in the action movie world, and that alone got me excited. That just the prospect of going into a game that's built around these people, around this '80s action theme, I was pretty excited for it. And then on top of that, when you think about uh, the fact that it's mainly a shooter and it's from Twisted Pixel, again, my expectation levels were pretty high. So high, in fact, that I went into it without really keeping in mind what I said a moment ago, that this is a port from Oculus Go. And when I got into it, that was the very first thing that became painfully apparent to me, is that this is a mobile VR game at its core. And despite its few strengths, it always kind of came back to that for me.
Okay, so initially, just the way it looked is just set you off on that path. What was the gameplay? Was the gameplay at least enjoyable, or?
Well, really, you're misunderstanding what I mean here. The look and sound of the game is good. It looks. I mean, it is basic, but it's very colorful. The 3D effects good. The sound effects are all good. A lot of good one-liner zingers from the time period in there. It really plays like an arcade game. It looks and sounds like a period arcade game from, like, say, the early 90s. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that I didn't like the game, but there are aspects of this game that the gameplay is based on 3DOF hardware, and it did not get adapted. I mean, some things got adapted into 6DOF, but there are other aspects of it that you can tell were just built around limited hardware, and it made for a situation where I was, there's three different main gameplay modes of the game, and it alternates, and it made it so that I was always wanting to play this style of game rather than that style of game, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, it looks like it definitely. So, which one was your favorite? This one where you're running?
All right. Let me explain to you how this game is structured. So, the game has different levels, right? The jungle, the desert, so on and so forth. You have these arcing overworlds where all of the stages within are themed within these different areas. And what you're attempting to do from a story perspective is rescue generals. Okay, so the world is being invaded by alien race, right? All of the world's elite fighting forces have either been killed or captured. So now they're calling upon your ragtag band of misfits, the B team, to try to save the world. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to help these generals that have been captured escape from the aliens. And you go to each one of these levels, and in each one of them they'll have like 7 or 8 stages, and each stage will be its own gameplay style. So it could be one of 3 different things. One is the runner, like you're looking at right here. 2 is like a wave shooter, and then 3 is kind of a collection of mini games. So just really basic mini games. Follow the green dot. This sort of really basic stuff. Most of it's timing stuff. It's even like the shooting stuff. It's all based on reflexes, because they allow you to switch. You have 4 characters. They allow you to switch to any one of those characters at any time, and every character has their own special ability, has their own kind of special weapon, and the game presents you with obstacles and challenges that are only suited for one particular member to deal with. So the whole game, whether it be running or shooting or doing the mini games, it's all about being able to identify what type of problem you're looking at and switch to the right character fast enough. That's the whole gameplay arc here, even if you're shooting or running or what have you. Um, so basically, you go through basically alternating between running levels and shooting levels, and the shooting levels are pretty fun. The running levels, not so much, dude. You can see it there. The game's running for you. All you're doing is pushing left and right.
Subway Runner.
And when you come to a certain obstacle, you have to switch to the right character so that you can get through it. And that's the whole concept of the running. Now, with the wave shooter, you're stationary, of course. Different types of enemies are coming at you, and you have to have a certain gun to kill this enemy and a certain gun to kill that one. So again, you're quickly trying to switch between weapon types. And I found that to be pretty fun, especially as you get on deeper into the game. It becomes more challenging. That was pretty fun. And with the mini games, again, this is all very basic stuff. It's all reflex based and attention based. The type of thing that a 10-year-old might have fun with. Not so much a 40-year-old who's a VR, a very experienced VR player. So basically, what I'm getting at is the game is kind of hit and miss all the way through, and just from a pure, gameplay concept, basically, I feel like it's showing its age a little bit.
Okay. Well, like you said, it's geared towards kids in a sense. Like I said, I'm not playing Subway Runner on my phone, but kids love it. So, my thing is I don't know. Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. It was fun. I had a good time overall. I wish I could pick and choose. You know what I mean? It doesn't let you pick whether you're going in the shoot or you're going in the run. To progress through the game, you just basically have to go one level to the next, and you'll have to play through some bad ones to get to some good ones. The good ones are very good at times, and the bad ones are very bad at times. What really confused me about it is, the gameplay loop seems like it's kind of designed for a younger player, like I said, but the comedic element of it is obviously targeted towards someone our age. Kids aren't going to get these 80s references, and they're not going to know who Don the Dragon Wilson is, or Eric Roberts, or any of these old action stars. So I feel like the intention here was kind of to make a game that's fun for everybody, but I feel like what actually ends up happening is you have a game that really kind of confuses everybody a little bit. Another thing that I didn't really care for, I was excited when they advertised it of having all these stars in it. I was excited to see what their contribution to the game would be, and there's absolutely nothing. I mean, it's basically, how I told you you're rescuing generals? You're rescuing literally like General Eric Roberts or General Don the Dragon Wilson, and they don't provide lines. They don't do any voice acting. It's literally just a picture of them and text that you read. So literally their only contribution to the game
is their name,
is their likeness and their name.
How much do you think they got for that?
$50 maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's crazy.
But coming from the developers of a game like Wilson's Heart, who had this star-studded cast of people who did this world-class voice acting, I had higher expectations coming in, and maybe that's the problem here, was what my expectations were coming in, but it didn't live up to them regardless.
So what are your thoughts on the price? $15. Is that maybe wait for sale, I guess, huh?
Yeah, that was the thing. I enjoyed my experience overall. I didn't regret playing it, and I will go back and play it again. But when I was playing it, before I knew how much it cost, I was thinking $10, $10 at the most for this. And then I came out of the game and saw that it was 15. So yeah, I can recommend this game, but I definitely recommend that you wait to get it on the sale. The shooting levels were fun, like I said, and as you go on, they get even funner. The characters are customizable, and the comedy and humor in it's funny, and it does speak to our generation. So there's a lot to like here. It's just inconsistent. You have to take the bad with the good.
Yeah, well, that's life, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
good and the bad.
But I think it's a good addition to the quest library. It's more of a palate cleanser than a main course game. Um, but yeah, if you ever see it on sale, $10 or less, I absolutely recommend it. Especially if you're someone in our age range, or if you're someone who has kids that like this arcade style gameplay. It's good for that.
Okay, so they're not bringing this to PC, right? I'm assuming.
No, I would doubt. I doubt that very much. It really was a case of like for example, the wave shooting levels were perfectly adapted to 6 DoF controls. Like you had your hands, you could look around. Uh, all that was great, perfect. Adaptation. But then there were other things with the mini games and the running where or even like just the mini games in specific, there are things that you use your hands for, but you know it's reticle based instead of where you're aiming
Hmm.
with your hands. I felt like they could have done a better job with that.
Yeah, maybe they'll adapt it, but yeah, sounds like a good game if like you said you got kids or it's on sale for sure.
Yeah, I think my son, I think he'll really enjoy this game. Both of them will probably. I think it's something that they're going to pick up, and even though the humor is going to go over their head, I feel like the look and sound of it, and just the gameplay concept is something that it would probably be quite appealing to a 10, 12-year old child.
Yeah, cool.
Anyway, that is going to bring us to our discussion topic of the day. And we've got a good one this week, Roots, because as you know, we've been playing Half-Life Alyx for the last week. And, who's to say that my experience in B Team doesn't have a lot to do with the fact that I've been playing literally the best, most polished VR game of all time for a solid week, and now I'm going into this. Maybe that had a little something to do with it as well. But a lot of people coming into VR right now to play Half-Life, and a lot of people now at this point are finishing Half-Life, and they're asking what's next. And for a lot of people, what's next is playing through it a second time because it's that good. But a lot of people aren't going to want to do that, and even if they do, they're going to get through it pretty quick. And they may be wondering, is there anything else? Does VR have anything else to offer us that's on this high quality level? And as you know, we've had some really good games out over the last 6 months. Asgard's Wrath, Stormlands, The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. But looking to the future, you might be wondering, what other kind of AAA quality experiences do we have coming? And that's what we're going to be taking a look at today, is what the remainder of 2020 has in store for us with regards to high quality AAA games. And Roots, I think we've put together a list here of some pretty solid titles. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And like you said, I've seen on the Reddits a lot that people are wondering what else is coming. That's great. Alex was amazing. Now I'm worried that there's nothing else coming out that's AAA level, and that was one of the reasons why we wanted to showcase this, is just to let people know, yeah, we have some good games coming out soon. So
Yeah, and this is stuff that if you're a VR enthusiast, you already know about. But if you're like me, leading up to the release of Half-Life Alyx, that kind of just consumed everything that you were thinking about and everything that the whole news cycle was about Half-Life, and that served as a pretty heavy distraction. And you may have forgotten about some of the things that we've got to look forward to here. And well, I guess we should just go ahead and dive right in. And that's going to bring us to our first game that we're going to be talking about today. And this is a game that I think we should be getting sooner rather than later. And I'm talking, of course, about Lone Echo 2. Lone Echo 2 is coming to us from Ready at Dawn and has been slated for an early 2020 release on the Oculus Rift platform. This, of course, is the highly anticipated sequel to 2017's Lone Echo. In this series, you play as Jack, a robotic ally to Liv, one of VR's most emotive and well-developed NPC companions. Roots, when you think about Lone Echo, the first Lone Echo, you think about realism in the NPCs that really was ahead of its time, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, and just the way she looked was just phenomenal, and just everything about it. It was a little slow at beginning, story wise, but definitely visually stunning, and actually had at least for me, had a good, just really good way of making you care about the characters. It just really the story drew you in. So kind of psyched to see where it goes.
Yeah, a very almost like an interactive movie on some levels. But with the sequel here, Jack and Liv are still the center of the story, as is their constant struggle for survival in abandoned reaches of deep space. You'll still be floating around in zero gravity, exploring, talking, and uncovering secrets. It sounds a lot similar to Lone Echo, but there's actually a lot more to it, reportedly. Apparently, the folks at Ready at Dawn are describing this as an expansion on every level. So the gameplay is going to be more diverse. The story is going to be largely more nuanced than it was originally. And basically, they're promising everything that we would expect out of a quality sequel to a game like this.
Cool. So hopefully it comes soon because, we've been rumored or been hearing about this for a while. So I'm ready.
Yeah, early 2020 is what they were saying, and that's quickly getting away from us.
Yeah.
The first Lone Echo, notable for its slow pace and lack of physical enemies and combat. Lone Echo 2 will mostly hold true to the same concept, but it does have more variety. In particular, enemies have become part of the puzzle solving as well as the action scenes simultaneously.
So enemies, does that mean I get a gun finally?
You're going to get something, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be a gun or not, but I think Boiling Steel proved to us that it doesn't necessarily have to be a gun per se.
Yeah, that's true. It could be a nail gun or who knows what the hell. And they use everything in that thing. So
yeah. So yeah, Lone Echo 2, I got to imagine as good as the first one looked, I imagine this one's probably going to be just jaw-dropping all this time later. That was 3 years ago when that one came out, and it looked like today's top-of-the-line VR games, back then. So I can only imagine that the next iteration of Lone Echo 2 is going to be similarly stunning, jaw-dropping experience.
yeah, I have to agree. Hopefully it'll be like hands down 10 times better, even though the first one was amazing. Yeah.
So yeah, be on the lookout for Ready at Dawn, all of you PCVR, I guess specifically Oculus Rift users out there, because this as a lot of the games on this list is an exclusive.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the good games are exclusives, at least for
Yeah,
Oculus. So,
that's true. It's very true. Most of the best games on any platform are
yeah,
exclusives.
true.
But the next game we're going to talk about is not an exclusive Roots. It's actually going to be a cross-platform title. Sniper Elite VR is coming to us from Rebellion Entertainment. These are the developers who brought us Battlezone, as well as the Sniper Elite series that flat gamers have come to know and love over the years. It's also being developed in partnership with Just Add Water, and they're best known for remastering the Oddworld games. Again, flat games. But as the name would suggest, Sniper Elite is about carrying out assassination missions with your sniper rifle. With your rifle in hand, you take down high-profile targets from afar. Roots, I'm interested in this game basically because sniping is something that really nobody has gotten perfect in VR yet. There's always some weirdness to the mechanic of aiming through a scope and taking long distance, high precision shots. I mean, that's the bread and butter of a game like this. So I'm really, really interested to see how it's going to come out.
Yeah, me too. Because that scope there looks amazing, just from the video, and they say that it's the best scope so far in VR. So I'm like you, I want to see how good this scope is and see how enjoyable the gameplay is. Although I will submit that if I'm playing it, I will not be teleporting around if that option is available. I ain't teleporting shit. But no, I think this is going to be an amazing game. I think it's definitely will probably shine a little bit more on the PSVR just because of the actual gun. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those rare cases where if I'm choosing between PC and PlayStation, I'm probably going to go with the PlayStation just based on the fact that this is a sniper game and PlayStation has a gun controller. The aim controller, not very many bad uses of the aim controller. I mean, there aren't a whole lot of games for it, but the ones that we have been spectacular, haven't they?
Yeah, it just changes everything. It's the only way you can have a proper locomotion and PlayStation VR as well. So you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting your prop, your gun, and you're getting to run around the way I want to run around. So yeah, it's definitely one of the highlights to me of PlayStation VR is the gun.
Yeah. And important to point out that this game isn't a game like, say, The Last Sniper VR. You're not being, or Last Sniper, it was the Perfect Sniper. The one from Sin Studio, the sniper game. I think it was Last Sniper, Perfect Sniper, one or the other. That game puts you in scenarios, and you had to, you know, you had to play through these assassination scenarios, and it was basically just scenario after scenario after scenario. This, on the other hand, is a full story-driven action adventure game. So you're going to come to different scenarios, but they're not disjointed. It's all connected linearly through a story, and the story takes you to Italy in World War II in a story that is set before Sniper Elite 4. You join the Italian resistance and fight to liberate Sicily. It says, crucially, the game keeps the stealth element of the other titles and features free movement. So there you go, Roots. This isn't node-based teleport. It's a free moving story-driven action-adventure game.
Yeah, it sounds good. Looks good, and I'm psyched for it. Just even now, I mean, we're getting close, so it makes me more excited.
Yeah. And you know what else makes me really excited? The other thing this game is known for is gory kills. The very gruesome close up, slow motion uh, death of your target is something that this game has made a name on, and you're getting that here too. Um, Sniper Elite lets you watch your bullet fly into the enemy's skull, and then you get an unnecessarily detailed X-ray of the damage it does internally. And now you get to do it in VR, so it's going to be even that much more realistic.
Oh, how great is it that I was watching this guy here, and the guy's running, and he shoots him in the back. It's like, fuck you, man, you're dead, dude. That's what I want to do. I want to shoot some people in the back, Wes.
Well, now through the magic of VR, your dreams come true.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it does. It looks really good, and I like the fact that it's staying along the lines of the original series for everybody that loves it, and I'm just excited to see it.
All right, but anyway, definitely one of my most highly anticipated titles. Coming to PlayStation VR with support for Move controllers, DualShock, as well as aim controller, and also coming to Oculus and Steam VR platforms as well.
Cool. That's what I'm looking forward to, some superior tracking on this one.
I'm looking forward to holding a gun in my hand
Yeah.
and blowing a bad guy's head off, and then getting slow motion X-ray vision to watch the very moment that their last breath leaves their body.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, sounds awesome. All right, and that brings us to a puzzle game, Roots. I like a good puzzle game, and this one looks like it might be one of the best we've ever seen. I'm talking, of course, about Firmament from Cyan Worlds. Cyan is the studio that brought us Myst, the legendary puzzle game Myst, and Abduction. And they described this game as a steampunk adventure. It's built from the ground up to be a VR exclusive, Root. So this is the first game that we're getting from Cyan that is built from the ground up for VR. And that statement in and of itself is enough to be excited about, in my opinion.
Yeah, because the abduction was all weird at first, right? Like you if you stepped over to the side just a little bit, you were running into invisible walls and weird shit. So just from the adaptation to VR, I know it's fixed now. But one thing I will say about this, I mean, not even knowing anything about this particular game, the puzzles are going to be fucking hard because they are. These developers, this is a real puzzle person game, right? Like a game for people that really like puzzles, because at least Abduction, man, it had you roaming around all sorts of shit. You'd have to come back, and it was very intricate, but it's a very thinking game. Thinking person's game.
Yeah.
So
Creative people, these people at Cyan, and not only creative when it comes to crafting puzzles, but very creative when it comes to writing a narrative. You can expect that this story is going to be off the wall. There's going to be some twists and turns to it, and basically the puzzles follow that same mold. So you kind of have to think outside the box to progress in any kind of game these guys develop. Now, with that said, not only are they very creative artists, but they're very, very talented when it comes to creating a world, a digital world, visually. Their games that they've developed, even from Myst onward, I've always been known as some of the best looking games that are on the market. Whatever's going on at the time that they release a game, graphically, they generally tend to be ahead of the curve. And as good as VR games have become over the last year, I'm really excited to see how this one's going to turn out.
yeah, me too. And what's the time frame on it? Do we know, like, when it's supposed to be coming?
Yeah, it's targeted for July 2020.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Uh, it was initially funded, much like Abduction. It was funded through Kickstarter. They launched a Kickstarter about a year ago. They already had a working demo at that time. It wasn't like they did the Kickstarter first and then started development. It was already in development. They launched a Kickstarter, raised well over $1 million from a group of over 12,000 people to make this game, and even from what I understand, reach their stretch goal. So this one's actually going to be coming to PlayStation VR as well.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. I love when they reach their goals because that's better for all of us, right? Add extra
Yeah.
shit, and PlayStation gets to play this now. So,
But this is their description from the words of Cyan. The game of Firmament is a resplendent, magical journey, a monumental voyage through 4 diverse and curious realms where you work in concert with an ever present clockwork companion under the guidance of a long dead ethereal mentor. Everything is not as it seems. Roots, a lot of big words there.
yeah.
I bet this thing's going to be freaking awesome.
Yeah. No big words that equal awesome, I think. But no, it definitely sounds like it's going to be awesome. And, you know, everything that we've seen from them so far in the past, even flat games or VR, has been good. So I don't think this is going to be any different. And, you know, we know they're well funded. So that's not going to be a consideration.
Yeah, that's always good to know, right? When most of these developers go in, they don't know if their game is going to be a success or a failure. When you take this route, and you're a well-known developer like these gentlemen are, it's good to know that you've already achieved some base level of success, right? They've already sold 12,000 copies of their game before they even developed it, just based on the strength of their name alone and their reputation. They raised over $1 million on a VR game. I think that says it all. That should tell you this is a game you need to be looking out for, especially if you enjoy crazy stories and complex puzzles.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what it looks like. I bet it's amazing.
Yeah, I bet you're right, and that's why I put it on the list. I think that this is going. People are forgetting about this game. Obviously, I think it's going to go down as one of the best games that come out this year.
Yeah, me too.
And Scion is probably drooling all over himself right now.
Oh yeah, because he's already still trying to get me into abduction. He actually wants to, and it's actually a good idea. He wants to do a symmetrical playthrough together while we're, playing the game. He's going to be my helper, my puzzle helper. So,
your hint,
my backpack, so I can jump in and get through.
your hit master.
Yeah. So it's definitely unique. It's that idea. So.
Yeah, I've been Abduction's one that's toward the top of my backlog list ever since they updated it. I always thought it looked cool, even like before it came out. I thought Abduction looked cool, but after it came out and I read the reports of all the jankiness and shit with it, I never tried it. I never even went into it because it was almost unanimous. People said that the VR adaptation was jank.
Yeah. Yeah.
But apparently they fixed it now, and that's very curious to me. I need to give it a look.
Yeah, me too. Because actually, I did go into it. I bought it and played it with my daughter and ran into exactly what I said, where you step to the side and all of a sudden you're like, why am I running into an invisible wall? It's like, oh, I need to calibrate because I'm now off to the side, and it didn't take into consideration that at all. So. But now that it's fixed and I own it, I definitely need to go back in. So,
Well, maybe on a future Monday show.
yeah.
Maybe we after all this new titles die down, we've got a few more weeks left of new stuff to play, but after that goes away, I think I could see a backlog report in the very near future.
Yeah, me too. Let's see how far we can get, right?
Yeah, yeah. I like a good puzzle game, man. My only problem is I don't know when to quit. If I get stumped, it'll fucking take my life over. I won't stop thinking about it. And sometimes that's what you have to do, right? You have to stop thinking about it. That way you can come back in with a fresh perspective. Because that's the whole challenge, right? You're thinking about it the wrong way, but then you get locked in. You can't stop thinking about it, so you can't hit the reset button.
Yeah,
And then
that's one of the reasons why puzzle games frustrate me in VR, because like I don't want to be standing there wandering around the same fucking place trying to figure out this puzzle that, like you said, there's something more being in there trying to figure it out. I want to move on. I want to get past this puzzle. I don't want to dwell on it for 15 minutes inside VR. You know what I mean? It's not what I want to be doing. So that's where where I get my frustration. So.
yeah, well, we have different temperaments here. I'm not so averse to that sort of thing as you are. But to each their own.
Yeah, that's true. That's why all the different games are out there, right?
Right. So where are we at now? We've talked about Lone Echo 2, awesome. We've talked about Sniper Elite 4, super awesome. We talked about Firmament, absolutely stunning. Now we're getting to the big guns, Roots. Two more, and both of them are going to. We're going to be talking about in December. I guarantee it. First of all, we have Marvel's Iron Man VR. This is coming to us from Camouflage, as well as Sony Worldwide Studios. Iron Man VR was announced during Sony's State of Play broadcast on March 25th, 2019. Roots, almost a year to the day. We learned about this game. Basically, what they're claiming to have created here, other than just an awesome superhero VR game, they're describing a PC VR game playable on PlayStation VR. They're claiming 300 full 360 tracking on this thing, an absolute spot-on sensation of flight, breakneck speeds, high-paced action, and if that's not enough, Roots, a gripping narrative. I mean, what more could you ask for in a game, right?
Yeah, for it to be on PC as well, but that's not happening. This is definitely a PlayStation VR exclusive. But yeah, I'm kind of curious how they're going to do 360 tracking, or at least in a way that they're describing it.
Well, I have a quote to that effect from game director Ryan Payton. And what he says is, we have some absolute wizards working at Camouflage and our development partners at Dark Wind in New York. They weren't intimidated by the challenge of having only the single PSVR camera. We designed the game so players can move around 360 uninhibited and not have to worry about where they're looking or where they're facing the camera or not. There's a bunch of tricks underneath the hood, a dozen or so unique things that we're doing that are predictive, that use the gyroscope in the move controllers. So basically what they're saying is they've used a little bit of magic and a lot of proprietary concepts that no one else is using, and they're using predictive algorithms to track you without seeing you.
Well, that's cool, because that's one of the things that frustrates me the most about PlayStation VR is when you're getting into it and you just turn a little bit too much and all of a sudden you get that, oh, you need to turn back the other direction thing. Like that's not going to pull you out immersion wise, right? So anything that can do something different to where you're full 360, I think that's awesome. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And normally I would write something like this off as promotion. Developer talk is just promotion. But a lot of people have played this game, have demoed it at game shows, uh, and they all say the same thing. It's amazing. They don't know how it works that well. And Gamertag VR, same thing from him. I asked him point blank. When it's all said and done, what's going to go down as the better game, Iron Man VR or Stormland? And he said, I think it's going to be Iron Man VR.
Mm.
So that should tell you a lot right there.
Yeah, that's crazy, huh? Well, I mean, there's a story too. In Stormland, that was one of the biggest disappointments. Is it was such a good game, but it was just like you almost felt like there was no reason to be doing it. I mean, in the whole scheme of a story pulling you along. So I bet this is going to be pretty cool, and I like the way that the story is a little bit different as far as Tony Stark is getting away from weapons. He's changing his whole way he's doing things, and I don't know. I just thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a story that's unique to the game. It's not derived from any comics or movies. The story is described as, quote, deeply personal, and it said that the team has set its sights not only giving the player thrilling moment to moment action, but a deeply personal and appropriately funny narrative that puts players in Tony Stark's armored shoes. So you know me, I'm a sucker for a good story driven adventure game, and from the looks of it, man, this is the one.
Yeah, well, especially if you said Gamertag is recommending it. I mean, he's played more games than most of us, so definitely must be pretty good.
It says here that that they have absolutely nailed the sensation of flight, and the way that works is you position your hands just like Iron Man would, and you pull the move controller triggers. So what that means is the thrusters are going to be coming out of the palms of your hands, not from where your fists are pointing. And while flying like this means you rest your arms at your side, your hands are near your waist, and the way you're going to steer is just by twisting your wrists. So this is literally all you're going to have to do to fly around. And it says there's a real sense of speed here. You start to go faster and faster, and you glide through the air. You can turn your body and hit the boost after you turn your body, and it shoots you off. You turn on a dime, and all of a sudden, you instead of going full speed this direction, you're going full speed in the total opposite direction. And apparently, you have that kind of precise control at high speeds, and it's another one of the things that makes this game so special.
Wow. Now I'm really curious to see how good it's going to be. Sounds good.
I am too, and you're not going to have to wait very long, Roots, because this game is coming to us exclusively on PlayStation VR on May the 15th, 2020. So about 6 weeks out, and this one's already up for pre-order.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be out of quarantine by then. There'll be no more of this nonsense. I'll be Iron Manning it up with 100 people around me. Close.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to this one. This is probably going to be, I don't know, man. It's easy to say that it's probably going to be the game of the year for PlayStation, but there's a whole lot of year left, and you know the nature of VR games, man. They just come out of nowhere, don't they?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. This is probably, I can say, it's probably going to be the biggest known IP, at least not, or I guess story-driven type of game that comes out. I mean, Iron Man's huge, so. But then again, the next game we have coming out that we're talking about, I don't know, I don't even know if that's PlayStation though. Never mind. So.
Well, let's get right into it then, since you brought it up there. The next game The last game that we're going to be talking about today is the OG Roots. You know, people love playing Call of Duty and Battlefield and all of these different wartime first-person shooter games. Well, all of these games exist based on built on the foundation that was laid down by the Medal of Honor franchise many years ago. And Respawn Entertainment is bringing us this year Medal of Honor Above and Beyond, exclusively to Oculus Rift. This game was announced at Oculus Connect 6, and it's the first all new entry into the Medal of Honor series since 2012 when they released Medal of Honor Warfighter. Roots, you know, a lot's been said about the attention to detail that Valve put into Half-Life Alyx. You know, a lot's been said about that over the past week. Unparalleled attention to detail. I feel like the guys at Respawn are going down that same path. They're on that same track. And even though this is a very different type of a game, I feel like we're going to have that similar kind of wow factor when we get into it.
Yeah, the lighting on this looks amazing, and the graphics, the gameplay, and I think we take for granted. We think, you know, Valve's the only big company out there that's going to be putting the detail in there, but I think this thing is going to really blow people away. And like you said, you know, we all want to play Call of Duty in VR, but I think it's going to be better than Call of Duty in VR. One, it's going to have a story, which Call of Duty's stories suck, or at least have for like the last decade. But it's going to be, you know, it just looks like it's going to be different, you know. And you were saying that they're probably going to bring some kind of multiplayer into this, but they haven't really said too much about it yet. So that's kind of up in the air. But look at how cool that plane looks. I don't know. I just think this is going to blow us away. It's probably going to be our best game that graphically for this era, for sure.
Yeah, the Medal of Honor franchise. What sets it apart from those other games we mentioned is the fact that it's so story based. This game is known for telling gripping war stories and based in fact, in reality. Beyond that, this type of game is a little bit different in the single player mode is kind of the bread and butter. It's kind of uses the old formula before multiplayer became the big thing that it is now. The old formula was you bought a game for the single player campaign, and the multiplayer was just a value added thing. It's something extra that you get on top of the game that you're actually paying for. So we're kind of going back to that philosophy with this, but they have confirmed that there is going to be multiplayer modes, plural, in this game. And the only thing that they've really said about it is that it's going to be something very different than what you normally get from this type of game.
That makes you wonder what the hell they're talking about. What could be different, you know? Because when I hear different modes, I think capture the flag, I think domination, you know, those type of modes, and that's honestly what I would want to see. But you know, who knows what we're gonna get, right?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it could very well be those, but just a different take on them or a different implementation. I don't know. I have faith in these developers. These are very, very highly talented people, and this is a very big video game company. This is going to be a phenomenal game. But we were talking about attention to detail. The team went to extraordinary lengths to capture authentic audio, fully rendered authentic 3D models of planes, tanks, ships, and more, and they actually filmed 360 footage on location across Europe to aid with accurately reconstructing iconic wartime locations. Unparalleled realism, Roots. We've never had a game in VR that has really sold out on being such a realistic, true to life simulation before.
Man, that just sounds more and more phenomenal the more you describe it there. And we can't get it soon enough for me anyway. That's what, 10 hours? 10-hour campaign? It's pretty good, right?
Yeah, yeah. Over 50 levels across 3 acts, totaling over 10 hours of single player campaign gameplay. So what's going to happen here, unless I'm mistaken, the way I'm taking it is this is going to be situational gameplay. There's going to be scenario after scenario after scenario that they put you in that you have to play through, and there's going to be a story arc that kind of ties it all together, and that story is divided up into 3 separate acts.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
Yep. Let's see here. What else do we know about this game? Oh, I think that's all I put on here. Multiplayer modes do exist. Again, they aren't discussing them at this time. What I didn't put in the notes here that I think is very important. We've had a couple of different iterations on physics over the past year, and there's been a lot of debate about which approach is the right way. Is it the Boneworks approach, where everything has to be 100% true to life accurate in terms of the way that items feel and interact with one another? Or is it going to be more of the Saints and Sinners approach, where we kind of nerf it a little bit because it's a game and we want people to have fun? That's the whole point, right? And then we had Valve, who just came out, who I say fell really more on the Saints and Sinners side of the equation than the Boneworks side of the equation. And by all indications, that's going to be the case here with Medal of Honor as well. They want to achieve realism in the scenarios, in the telling of the stories, in the general weight of what you're doing by participating in World War II. But at the same time, it is a game, and it has to be fun. And that's a fact that isn't lost on these developers.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how far into physics they're going to go, too, because I was just playing a game that we're going to be talking about on a future Monday show today. And the first thing I noticed is my hands were going through everything, and because we're getting to the point with Alex and Walking Dead and so many games, Boneworks in a row, that I'm starting to get conditioned that my hand shouldn't be going through walls and shit. And so when it does, it's jarring at first. It's like, oh, that's right. That's VR. Not VR that we're starting to get, but the VR of the past. So it makes me always wonder with these new games how far the physics will go. And I do believe that from this point forward, we're going to start seeing it be rare to not have the physics be there. But that'll just change over time. So.
Right. Yeah, I think that you're right, especially we're talking about AAA games here today. I think that's the new standard, and I absolutely think that it's going to apply here. But going to an example that you brought up recently about dropping your gun. Remember, we were talking recently about how it sucks when you're trying to fight, but you drop your gun. You do holster your weapons in this game. There's enough going on so that you have to be able to use your hands freely, catch grenades, do whatever, interact with items. So you do have to holster your gun. But if you drop your gun on the ground, it automatically holsters itself. It's not. That goes to what the point I'm trying to get across here. It's not so realistic that gets in the way of you having fun. If you drop your gun in this game, it'll just automatically holster itself, and you just pull it back out again.
And if that bothers you, like if you're a purist and you're like, that's just wrong, well, just pretend it's a magnet thing, holster, because no one has a problem with magnet hands in Alex, so I can have a magnet holster that just automatically holsters it. Oh, sometimes it just baffles me. Some people are so weird about some things, but
well, everybody has their own personal biases, and it's just funny when you sit outside of that and see it for what it is. People have it's painfully obvious in the VR enthusiast world that everybody has their own double standards, right? So like the same people that will criticize Saints and Sinners for having cartoony looking characters will go into Half-Life Alyx and say that those characters are absolutely the best characters that they've ever seen in their lives. And they look very, very similar, Roots. The art style in both games are kind of cartoony, but the same people that were shitting on one game are praising the other. And there's only one reason why they would do that. They're biased, right? They love Valve so much that they just can't do any wrong, right?
yeah. Well, it's like you said, there's different things that baffle me, like things that people will say I can't turn in game. Like Mamefan loves to turn physically, and that makes sense, but they have no qualms moving with the joystick forward. It's like, well, if I turn with the joystick, it's going to be immersively pulling me out, but I can push forward on the joystick and move forward, and that's fine. But like you said, that's for each one of those, we've all got something like that. There's something that, you could say, and then when you stop and look at it, you're like, well, wait, that's kind of weird, but yeah, it's just everybody's different.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to, right? Everybody's different.
Yeah, I just don't want
each their own.
I just when it comes to turning, the reason why I don't like it is I just want to keep my feet in one place. I don't want to be doing weird shit, punching weird stuff. If my feet don't move, I can't accidentally punch something. You know what I mean? If I'm always facing the right direction. So I guess that's where my training goes.
I would. It really doesn't bother me one way or the other. I could turn, I could not turn physically. It really doesn't matter. The only way it would matter to me is if I really could walk. Like if I could walk around and just go wherever the hell I wanted, then that would be obviously the way I would prefer to play. But if I'm standing still anyway, I mean, I don't understand how turning, literally rotating is the same thing as turning while you're walking. It's not the same thing. It doesn't feel the same to stand and rotate as it does to walk left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like you. I don't get the connection there. While that's more immersive to, stand in a spot and rotate. But again, that's me. If it does for you, then more power.
I think it has to go to the room scale. For people that really, like you said, did use room scale or maybe do use it a lot more, it's great. I've got a limited space, and so I don't like to just walk around everywhere. So, but
yeah, I agree. But anyway, whether you like to stand and turn or use your joystick, whether you like realistic physics or arcade style gameplay, whether you like simulations or whether you like video games, I think that these 5 games that we've listed out here, I think it's going to appeal to most of you. And if you're a new player in VR and you think that all you have to play is Half-Life Alyx, brother, you have another thing coming. Not only with the games that we listed here, but the games we mentioned at the top of the discussion: Asgard's Wrath, Stormland,
Boneworks.
Boneworks, The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners. Those are all phenomenal AAA gaming experiences. And you can go back even further to games like No Man's Sky and Skyrim and Fallout 4, Wilson's Heart. There's a ton. Hellblade, Sinuous Sacrifice.
Lone Echo.
We have, yeah, Lone Echo. We have dozens and dozens of AAA quality VR games. The Edge of Nowhere
Oh yeah,
was a great game.
It is a great game.
Um,
It's funny how many Oculus Studios exclusives are so amazing. I mean, that studio really does know what they're doing as far as putting out good games.
Yeah, and we've got one that I didn't even put on the list here that looks absolutely great is the Phantom Covert Ops. That's coming out soon
Yeah.
from Oculus Studios and In Dreams. And yeah, I think that one's going to be great as well.
Yep. Yeah, me too.
So yeah, there's no shortage of great games. So if you're new to the platform and people are telling you that you only have one game to play, just try some stuff out. And if you need to know what to try out, there's an invitation to our Discord down in the description below. There is any number of people on there that are more than willing to help you. I mean, these guys live to tell you what you should be playing. So go on there and take advantage of it if you don't know what to buy.
Yep, absolutely.
And of course, the best way to stay informed on what's coming up, what's good to play, everything VR gaming related is to subscribe and click the notification bell and stay up with all of the awesome content here on the Virtual Strangers channel.
Yeah, help push us to 1,000 so we can really grow and be awesome. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. Push us to 1,000 and beyond. Yeah, subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, hashtag make a friend subscribe.
Yes, please.
But yeah, on the side note, next week coming up, as we've mentioned before, the anniversary week, our birthday, we turn 1 year old. The Monday show next week, Monday show 32, Anthony from the VR 365 coming in to do a full episode with us. We're going to be doing Because I Said So to kick the episode off. Then I think we're going to talk some hardware to conclude it. It's going to be a good time. Be sure to tune in for that. Tune in on Sunday as well for Virtual Strangers 52. Cool surprise in store for you on there as well. But I think we're going to let that one be a surprise. So be sure to tune in for that one. Game keys, we're probably going to be kicking out a few on both days. So if you're one of these aforementioned new players that need games to play, now's the time. Show up to our birthday party and you might just walk away with some of VR's best.
Yeah.
Anyway, with that said, friends, we want to thank you once again for watching. And for Roots, I'm Wes. We'll see you next week, friends. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.